I'd never marry someone like her. The laugh that followed was easy. Unhurried. The laugh of a man who has never needed to monitor a room for danger because every room he has ever walked into has already been arranged in his favor. It came through the study door at full volume and landed in Priya Sharma's chest like something thrown. She was standing 3 feet from the door in the hallway, holding a tray. 2 cups of chai she had made from scratch, not the bag kind. The kind that required standing at the stove for 8 minutes with a spoon, and a small plate of the biscuits she had bought specifically because she had noticed 2 months ago that his friend Vikram always reached for them first at gatherings. She had been trying to make a good impression. She had been trying since she moved into this apartment to make a good impression on everyone Rohan brought home. Because that was what you did when the relationship was still new enough to tend carefully. She stood in the hallway with the tray and did not move. "She's perfectly fine," said Vikram's voice, softer, not a defense, more the voice of a man trying to dilute something before it becomes irreversible. "She's just not exactly. She's what my mother selected," Rohan said, and there was no cruelty in it, which was the part that cut deepest. No heat, just clarity. The tone of a man explaining a perfectly reasonable position to someone who already understands. "She's sensible, she's presentable, she'll be good at the parts that need doing. She's the correct choice for the situation. She just isn't." A pause. Ice moving in a glass. "You've met her. You understand what I mean." A silence from Vikram that was not disagreement. Priya looked down at the tray, at the 2 cups of chai, at the biscuits arranged on the plate with the small, careful attention of a woman who had been trying. She turned around. She walked back to the kitchen with the tray held level, not because she was calm, but because she had learned at 22, during the worst year of her life, that the body can be disciplined independently of what is happening inside it. She set the tray on the counter. She looked out the window at the Mumbai evening, the familiar orange sprawl of it, the traffic noise rising 6 floors, and she breathed through her nose and out through her mouth 4 times. Then she went to her room, closed the door without slamming it, and sat with what she had just heard. She sat with it for a long time. If you have ever stood outside a room while your worth was settled by someone who thought you weren't listening, stay. Because what Priya did with what she heard is the whole story, and it starts the very next morning. Priya Nair had been considered an excellent match by everyone qualified to have that opinion, which in her family's social world meant everyone. 30 years old, a master's degree in finance from Delhi University that she had completed in the top 4% of her cohort. 4 years at a well-regarded mid-size investment fund in Pune, where her performance reviews used words like exceptional and indispensable in the way that only registers as meaningful once someone else is reading them back to you much later. A family that had produced professionals for 3 generations, and then in Priya's generation specifically, had hit a period of financial difficulty that Priya had spent 2 years quietly and largely single-handedly resolving, while telling almost nobody she was doing it. The match with Rohan Kapoor had come through the usual architecture. His mother and Priya's mother had discovered each other at a cousin's wedding, had found alignment on the important questions over chai and WhatsApp across 6 weeks, and had eventually produced a family dinner where everyone performed impeccably and said nothing of substance. Priya had been included in every decision point, which was more than some of her friends could say. She had said yes because Rohan was presentable and kind in the surface layer, and because her mother had the specific exhaustion in her eyes that adult daughters learn to read before they learn almost anything else, and because Priya was also, underneath everything, tired in a way she had not yet admitted to herself. She had moved into the Bandra apartment 8 weeks before the night at the study door. She had been trying. She sat in her room the night of the study door and did not cry. She thought about the word sensible. She thought about the word presentable. She thought about the phrase the correct choice for the situation, and the particular violence of being described accurately by someone who meant it as a compliment. She thought about the job she had left in Pune. The 4 years. The performance reviews. The specific competence she had set down like a bag she'd needed both hands free from and had not picked back up. She made a decision. Not dramatic. Not announced. A quiet, private, load-bearing decision about what the rest of her life was going to be structured around, and it was not going to be the correct choice for the situation. She opened her laptop at 11:45 p.m. and wrote 3 emails to former colleagues she had not contacted in 2 years. She closed the laptop. She went to sleep with the quality of sleep that follows a decision, not peace exactly, but resolution, which is a different and more useful thing. Within a week, she had had coffee with 2 of the 3. Within 10 days, she had been introduced informally to a partner at a venture fund in Lower Parel, Divya Anand, who wore no rings and spoke in declarative sentences, and ended the conversation by saying she would like to bring Priya in for a formal process. The conversation had been scheduled for 40 minutes. It ran to 2 hours and 15. Priya drove home. She made dinner. She sat across the table from Rohan and answered his questions about her day accurately and without elaboration, which was easy because he did not ask specific questions. The formal process took 6 weeks. She scheduled everything during his office hours or his Alibag weekends. She was methodical. She was also, as she had suspected she might be when properly applied, very good. Divya Anand called on a Tuesday. "We want to make you an offer," she said. "I want to be direct about the number, because I think the market has been undervaluing your profile and I don't want to repeat that mistake." She gave the number. Priya wrote it on a notepad. It was more than double what she had earned in Pune. It was more than Rohan knew she was capable of earning because she had never told him, and he had never asked. It was, in a way, she allowed herself to register sitting alone at the kitchen table, the exact financial statement she had needed to make to herself for 2 years. She accepted. She told Rohan that evening. Directly, without softening architecture. "I've accepted a position at a venture fund," she said. "I start in 3 weeks." He looked up from his phone. The processing happened visibly across his face, surprise first. Then the rapid recalibration of a man who is good at managing situations, landing finally on a warmth that was genuine on the surface and elsewhere more complicated. "Which fund?" he said. She told him. He knew it. She had expected him to know it. Divya Anand's fund had produced 4 of the city's most significant investment stories in 3 years, and the partner list appeared in business journalism as shorthand for people whose opinions had expensive consequences. "You've been interviewing," he said, slowly. "For 6 weeks," she said. "Yes," without saying anything. She looked at him across the kitchen. "I'm saying something now." The silence had a particular quality, the quality of a man deciding which version of this he was going to present to himself. She watched him arrive at the one that worked. "This is wonderful," he said. "We should celebrate." "We should," she said. She said it with the face she had perfected over 8 weeks of trying, and behind that face she was somewhere else entirely, finalizing a different set of plans. The Kapoor family Diwali gathering was an institution. 160 people. The Alibag house, 3 generations of accumulated ritual and expectation. Priya had attended twice before as the newcomer, observed, assessed, placed. This was the 3rd year. She arrived with Rohan, organized and packed for the weekend with the efficiency that she had once been called sensible for. in which she had decided to stop performing as though it were a concession. Vikram was there. He greeted her with the specific over-warmth of a man whose conscience has been generating low-level discomfort for 2 months. She gave him the same smile she gave everyone. She was still very good at the smile. She had decided not to throw away skills simply because they had been used against her. Divya Anand arrived at 9:15. Priya had not known she was coming. The connection was through Rohan's younger sister Meera, old-school friends, the link entirely social and entirely unrelated to Priya. Divya walked into the Alibag house with her husband and a glass of something sparkling and was absorbed immediately into the gathering the way that genuinely confident people always are, without effort or announcement. Rohan saw her from across the room. Priya watched him see her. Watched the micro-adjustment, the straightening, the read of the room to see who else had noticed. Then the crossing of the floor with the fluid social fluency she had always given him credit for. He reached Divya, shook hands. The conversation opened warmly, because he was good at opening conversations warmly. Priya did not cross the room. She stayed where she was and talked to Rohan's aunt about a garden renovation for 20 minutes with her complete attention, which was something she could do while tracking peripheral information, had always been able to do, and which no one in this family had yet thought to ask her about. Later, when the gathering had reached its warm middle hours, diyas on every surface, the smell of ghee and mogra moving through the house, the volume rising and softening in waves, Divya found Priya on the garden terrace. "Your husband didn't know we'd been in conversation," Divya said. No preamble. She was not a preamble person. "No," Priya said. "I assumed he knew. I mentioned it in my usual way, and he," Divya paused. "He managed the surprise well. He's good at that." "He is," Priya agreed. Divya looked out at the garden, the string lights, the cousins on the lawn. "I told him you were the strongest candidate we'd seen in 18 months, she said. "I thought he should know what he had." What he had. Priya let the phrase sit without comment. "Are you all right?" Divya said. The directness of the question, with no social padding around it, was the kindest thing anyone had said to her in weeks. "I'm in the middle of something," Priya said. "But yes." Divya raised her glass. "The role starts in 3 weeks. Everything after that is yours." Across the terrace, Rohan was watching them, his wife and her new boss, standing together at the edge of the garden at the Kapoor family Diwali. Equal and easy with each other, in a way that had no room in it for the arrangement he had described to Vikram through a closed study door 2 months ago. Priya could feel him recalibrating from 30 feet away. She understood the calculation he was running, because she had sat in enough board meetings to know what recalibration looked like when the numbers had changed. She met his eyes. She did not look away first. She filed for separation 6 weeks later. Not impulsively, she had spoken to a solicitor in week 3, had spent the intervening time understanding the practical architecture of exit, had arranged the financial separations that needed arranging before the conversation happened. She told Rohan on a Sunday evening with the same directness she had used for the job announcement, because she had found that clarity, even when it was hard, was kinder than the performance of softness. He asked if they could discuss it. She said she had been discussing it with herself for 2 months, and the discussion was complete. He did not fight it. She had suspected he wouldn't. Men who describe their wives as correct choices for the situation rarely fight the ending of those situations. They recalibrate, reframe, and move to the next correct choice. She did not say this. She thought it once and then released it, because she did not need to be right about him. She only needed to be done. She moved into a flat in Bandra West, 2 kilometers from the apartment she had spent 8 weeks trying in. It was smaller, on the 4th floor, with a window that looked at another building rather than the sea. She bought a plant for the window. She had never had a plant of her own, because the apartment had already been styled when she moved in, and there was no room in a styled apartment for things that were only hers. The plant was unimpressive, and she loved it completely. The role at the fund was serious work. Divya Anand did not staff lightly, and she did not manage gently, and the first 3 months required the kind of sustained performance that reminded Priya of her best years in Pune, but higher and faster, and in a city that did not slow down between pitches. She was good at it, in the way that people are good at things they have been accurately matched to, not effortful, not displayed, just the clean function of the right person in the right seat. She met Arjun in month 4. He came in with a Series A pitch for a logistics platform he had built from a single room in Nagpur, now operating in 3 cities. The deck, the clearest distillation of a business model she had seen in months. He sat across the table from her and the other 2 partners and answered questions with the particular quality of someone who has thought past the obvious objections and knows where the real ones live. She asked the hard question. She always asked the hard question, the one she built specifically to find the gaps in a founder's understanding of their own risk. He answered it correctly. Then he said, "That question is designed to be unanswerable unless you actually understand where you're fragile." She looked up from the deck. "You built it to find the difference between founders who know and founders who perform knowing," he said. "Yes," she said. "It's a good test," he said. The other 2 partners were looking at their notes with the focused attention of people who are pretending not to notice something. The fund backed the platform. It was Priya's decision, her conviction, her memo. Arjun came back for follow-ups and she ran them. His co-founder was his younger brother, who had the same undecorated directness, and after their 3rd meeting told Priya, in the elevator, without particular emphasis, "He talks about you between meetings, more than he talks about the funding." The elevator arrived at the ground floor. The brother walked out without elaborating. Priya stood in the elevator for a moment. Then she walked out into the Mumbai afternoon and went back to work, because she was in the middle of building something and she was not yet ready to add complexity to it. She was ready at the end of the year. She told him when she was ready. He was not surprised. He said he had been patient because she was clearly in the process of something important and he did not want to be another thing happening to her. He said it simply, without performance. She said, "I have a condition. Tell me." "Whatever you think about me," she said, "you say to my face. You don't describe me to other people in rooms I'm not in. If you have a view about who I am, I hear it first." He looked at her steadily. A long moment. "Then that is not a difficult condition. It has been, for some people," she said. "Then those were the wrong people," he said. She believed him. The wedding was in Pune, in his family's home, in March. Small and deliberate, the people who had actually been present for the work of the last 2 years, not the roster of a correct social arrangement. Divya Anand came and made a toast that was 4 sentences long and exactly right. Priya's mother sat in the front row and cried in a way that was entirely different from the tired crying of the previous years. Open, full, the crying of relief that has finally been given permission. At some point in the evening, Vikram appeared. She had known he might. He ran in overlapping circles and someone had invited someone, and here he was, at the edge of the event, with the expression of a man who knows he is in a room where a specific thing happened and is hoping it has been forgotten. She walked over to him. She shook his hand. She asked after his family. She was warm and precise, and she gave him none of the theater of resentment, because she had built a life that had no room for theater. He left after 40 minutes, and she let him go, and she went back to her husband. Arjun was talking to her mother. He was listening to something her mother was saying with his whole attention. No performance, no patience face. Actually listening. And her mother was talking with her hands the way she did when she felt genuinely received, and Priya stood at the edge of it for a moment, before he noticed her, and his face changed in the specific way it changed only for her, which was the word she had been waiting her whole adult life to be the reason for. There are rooms you stand outside of, and hear your worth decided by people with insufficient information. And then there are rooms you build yourself, with the right materials, and you choose who comes in. The study door was not a wound. It was a measurement. It measured exactly how far she had to go, and it was wrong about how long it would take her. She was already most of the way there. She just needed someone to say it out loud so she could finish. Subscribe, because next week's story begins the moment someone says the wrong true thing, and ends somewhere nobody in that room could have predicted.